Hi everyone and welcome to Flosstube number 15. I think it is 15. Today I have some fully finished objects, I have some new starts, and I have some sewing. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. But before that, if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back and spending some time with me. It warms my heart. If you are new here, hi, my name is Marika. I'm from Stockholm, Sweden, where I live with my boyfriend and my 2 cats. And this is a channel mostly about cross-stitching. So before I get into anything, I just want to say I'm super sorry that I didn't have a video for you last week. It's been a couple of weeks. Both my back decided to start bothering me again, so I'm not sleeping very well. I'm super stressed to the point where I'm kind of having having problems kind of getting myself to do things, like almost apathy. Super stressed because we are traveling. We are going on vacation. We are heading to Florida and Disneyland, or Disney World, which is super awesome, which makes me really happy. But there's so many things I have to get ready before we leave, so it's been a lot of stressfulness. So last week I just didn't have the capacity. And if you want to follow my journey to Florida and beyond, my travels, I do have a vlogging channel where I vlog every day through my travels, and you'll find it in the description down below. And by the way, when I'm talking about the description down below, anything I'm talking about today, if I miss count of fabric or what thread I'm using, everything is listed in the description, and I usually have links to the patterns if I'm able to. But yes, let's get started and jump into the agenda. The agenda of today is my fully finished objects, my new starts, and my cross-stitch adjacent sewing. But yes, let's get started. So for my fully finished objects, the first one is my Soda Stitch Santa in a Cup. It is a freebie on the Soda Stitch Facebook group, or on the page, on the Facebook group I think it is, and you can download it there. It is a super adorable, and this was my first project that I did, and kind of tried the sewing technique, which I will talk a little bit more about in the new starts. There is one thing though, and that is I have one line too much of the beard, so I have kind of fudged everything around it because I had done a lot of stitching when I came there, but otherwise it's kind of fun. The background fabric is this green beautiful one, bought from a local craft store. It's their own brand, but yes, it was super fun creating this and sewing it together and be able to show the whole finished piece to you. The second fully finished object, because I have 2, is the little houses. Last week I talked about my upcoming project, which was the little freebie houses in the Cross Stitcher magazine from December 2015. Yes, from 2015. And they had a trio of houses, and I decided to put them all together into a little pillow. And there's a few things with this. It is stitched like the Santa on 16 count platinum Aida with the sharded DMC. These houses were sharded individually, not as a trio together. The few things, all of them had 2 things next to each other, and it just happens that this house had a little tree, and this house had that house had a little tree, so I just removed their trees and kept the 2 trees that was around this little brown one. The other thing I did to kind of switch it up is that I made these little swirls, that's the word, swirls, a little bit smaller than what they were on the pattern, so that the trees could kind of fit together, and that was how I made this little trio. And that was all of my fully finished objects. So let's head into my new starts, because I haven't touched any other of my works in progress this 2 weeks. I had, like, when I'm as stressed as I am right now, I'm super stressed. I'm also having some migraine issues because I have my treatment next week, and where sometimes I have a very hard time deciding what to do. And I have been feeling in my bones that I've been wanting to start a new project. I've had a dimension lying in my cupboards since last December, and I just wanted to start it. But I also had decided that, well, it's gonna be my new vacation start. However, I could only wait so long, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna jump into it. And I decided that this time around I am going to stitch everything in hand, and I'm gonna work with the sewing method for that, because it seems that things looks pretty good. As a note, both of these are stitched with the sewing method, and what I've seen for me when it comes to the sewing method is that the stitches are a little bit more plump, so they're a little bit more dimensional. So I can't mix and match having some portion of the project in frame and some of it in hand. I have to choose one another. So yeah, that's also one of the reasons why I haven't been wanting to stitch on my other projects, because they are all in frame. And it's a little bit harder with how we have our living room set up now to stitch with a frame. I'm going to solve it, but I decided that before the travels I'm not even going to bother. So I have started to stitch in hand, and my newest project is Winter Cabin by Dimension, and I have gotten far. So this is a couple of thousand stitches. I realize that I can get a lot more stitched in a much shorter time. It's probably, if you just measure like plain stitching in one color, I could probably get around 500 stitches in an hour. But with mixed stitching, I haven't really recorded that, but I am going to. But I wouldn't have gone this far if it wasn't in hand. The outline still takes about the same time, and so does the little French knots that you have on the tree, but otherwise it looks so good. I'm really enjoying this, and it goes very, very fast. And I stitched on it basically sometime mid of last week, and then I was watching like YouTube videos and Facebook and Instagram, and everywhere I was looking, this quad design called Dapper Judas Little Houses by Stitching with the Housewives. They were everywhere, and I decided that I need to make them, because as you might have seen a theme in my stitching, and that is I'm stitching houses. So I have started on the quad. I think this is number 4. I'm gonna stitch all of them in the same on the same piece, like as I did with the little houses. Like I did with these houses, I'm gonna do it with these, but I don't think I'm gonna make a pillow of these. I do need more poster board. That is why I haven't fully finished anything else. And because of postage and time things take to arrive here, even in Sweden, I decided not to buy anything until I get back from my vacation. So I just keep stitching instead of finishing stuff right now. I think this is the 4th. I saw on the 4th design, the PDF, on the 4th PDF, there's an image of all the 4 of the design together on a backing board, and they have stitched them individually, but they have ordered them in such a way that I'm like, that makes so much sense. That looks so good. That is how I want to order them. So I started with number 4, which I finished today. It's really, really nice. It is stitched in the shirted DMC. All of these are actually shirted first and foremost in fancy floss. So I have just taken the DMC conversion that you also get in the pattern, but they're not stitched in the DMC conversion. So it's nice seeing how it's stitched up, but here it is. So I'm gonna do all 4 of them, and I'm still a little bit thinking if I'm gonna add one extra of these lights, like the little yellow light in the middle. I think I'm gonna add 1 extra and something in between the houses, just to give it a little bit more, the little line go a little bit nicer at the top. So we'll see. And it was also a recommendation that they Chelsea and Priscilla. I'm not very good with names, so I'm hoping I'm saying the right names here, but I think Chelsea said that you can also just add that in between to fill it up. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm just going to figure out how to do that. But yeah, that is that one. And I'm stitching that in hand also. It's easier also when you travel. And I promised to tell you, when I say I'm doing this sewing method, what do I really mean with the sewing method? It is kitty hair everywhere. That's just life. When you're doing, like, what I do when I stitch in frame is the stabbing method. The stabbing method is when you take your needle, you put it through your fabric, you pull it through with your thread, and then you push it through and you pull it through with your thread. That is the stabbing method, because you stab through the fabric, you stab up towards the fabric. And that was how I was stitching for years. By the way, I'm gonna do a tutorial showing exactly how I do the sewing method. I just don't have the energy or time right now. But yeah, that is how I stitched for years. I learned how to stitch two-handed, so I have one hand on top of the fabric and one hand under the fabric, which only works if you can stretch your fabric, like in a frame, and you have a frame stand and all of those things, to make that go faster. And then this time around I tried the sewing method, and yeah, I talked about it for a couple of videos now. And the sewing method is when you take your needle, you take a fabric, and you're gonna have to hold it in hand because you have to have it a little bit pliable. You take a needle, you put it into one hole, and then you put it up in the next hole, and then you pull it through. So you just do like a sewing motion when you're doing your cross stitches, and that makes things go very much faster, because you don't have to pull the thread out twice, you only pull it through once. And also when you're working like this and you don't have to think about trying to, you see the holes in a whole other way, it's so much faster, really much faster. But yeah, again, this is Dapper Duda number 4. I'm stitching this on 16 count white Aida, because that was what they were using. They were using white Lugana, I think, Monaco. Lugana is the 28th count, and that was what they used. 32 is Monaco, the different names of the fabrics. But anyhow, it was even weave that they were using, and I am very happy with my Aida at the moment. I really like the stiffness in the fabric, especially now when I am figuring out how to stitch in hand and all. So I just picked out a piece of 16 count white Aida, and this is 13 by 18, so it's 18 on the length, and that should fit all of these houses, including hopefully also those little extra pieces in the middle. But yes, that was my new starts, and I'm having so much fun stitching them. A little note on how I ordered them. I'm using floss drops. I'm using my floss drops for all my threads. For the winter cabin, using floss drops was kind of the only solution. It is a dimension kit. Dimension kits nowadays comes on these long strips, and then the threads are kind of tucked in between two pieces of cardstock and a little bit of a foam piece, and then just hanging. There's no way to put the thread back onto those organizers. I have made little holes before in other kits, but the strips are so long, it's not a very good solution. So when I started looking into floss drops and trying floss drops, I decided that this project would be great with floss drops. So I've put all of the threads onto them. I have made my floss drops myself, super simple. These are a thinner cardstock. It's a pattern paper, thinner pattern paper. It's basically, I think this pattern paper is just slightly thicker than copy paper. I bought a 6x6 pattern paper pack. I cut out squares that are 2 by 2 inches. So I have a couple of different colors, patterns here. And I rounded the corners, laminated the squares in my laminator with just like 80mm lamination paper. And then I used a very big circle punch and then a smaller hole punch to make the floss drops themselves. Really like them. I tried putting my bobbins onto one of these rings, and they're a little bit thicker, and you get bulk really fast. These are super thin, so you don't get that bulk, and I really like them. The pattern paper I've chosen is actually white on the backside, and then I just used a permanent marker and written the numbers directly onto these. And if you're careful so you don't get it in between the two layers of lamination, you can use alcohol to wipe off the numbers and reuse these. I don't know if I am going to reuse them. I think I'm just gonna keep my thread on them. And as you continue working with dimensions, you will get similar threads over and over, and then I'm just gonna keep on hanging them on my little floss drops. For the Dapper Doodas, I'm just using my plain DMC. However, I did one thing, and that is I took all the threads off from my my bobbins, and I used a flatten iron, the one for your hair, and I flattened all the threads, so I got all the kinks out because the kinks were really bothering me. Now, stitching the way I'm stitching, my stitches get a little bit more fluffy, and then all of those kinks that you get into the fabric really show. So I just used a flattened iron, flattened out the thread, and put it on their own little floss drops. And this, I used another pattern paper. This is an old one from Lawn Fawn, I think. Really old one. You most likely won't find it. I think this is from 2013 or 14. But I really liked the red paper and the little trees. And I only made from like 3 pieces of cardstock for these. For the last thing today, I have some sewing adjacent, or some cross-stitch adjacent sewing. So let's get into that. I have been sewing because I needed a travel bag for my, or a project bag for traveling with my cross-stitch. So I sewed 3 different things. I'm gonna start with this little thing. Now, my sewing machine isn't really okay. I need to purchase a new one, so that my lines are a little bit wonky. I didn't took very big care because I know it's gonna look terrible anyhow. But yes, the first thing is just like a little hanging scissor fob, I don't know. And it has just like buttons that you can separate and push together, like push buttons. It makes things a little bit easier, and it also makes me see the scissors a little bit easier, or feel them a little bit easier. So that is the first one. I don't know if I showed you. This is the first one. There we go. Super simple. And it is, all of these things are stitched or sewn in my own pattern paper, pattern fabric, I made a design like a year or so ago, might not even be almost 2 years now, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked it, and I took out like 1 meter of it. I made some pouches that are in my store, but now I'm trying to do fun stuff. So this is a thread like book, I don't know. I just have put some batting on the inside. You can use felt or anything, but I thought batting would be great. And then I can just place this as a work surface on the plane, for example, or in the bed. And then when I cut pieces of my thread, I can just put them on here, both so that I can keep track on any, like when I pull 2 strands out of a length and I know I'm gonna need the rest of the length, I can just add it to here. But also all of those little offcuts I can also put on here, so I don't have offcuts in the hotel beds. So yeah, super simple. And I also have that little click button on there. Super simple. But yeah, that was the second thing. And by the way, I am trying to figure out how to sew on. Like, it looks fairly good on the inside, but it doesn't look good on the outside. I'm learning, okay? I'm learning. It's a lot of fun though. So the last thing and the big thing is my travel pouch. So this is my travel pouch for my project bag. Now, I only had a little bit left of my travel fabric, this is my travel fabric. I made pouches with this fabric for like having your passport or money in when you're traveling. I thought that was fun. There's still a couple of those pouches in the store. And when I did that, I actually cut up all of the fabrics with the same width as the bags. So I only had this height of fabric. So what I have done is I took one piece here and I extended it with some of the brown fabric, and then I did with my one piece at the top. And on the other side, I added a little bit of a brown strip in the middle and on the bottom. And I didn't line this up perfectly. This isn't made for sales. It's just made so that I had something to do. When I have this much migraines, and on top of that being as stressed as I am, I have a brain fog. I have a serious bad brain fog right now. So trying to figure out widths and everything and trying to get things to line up wasn't my forte, so I didn't. Hopefully I can get a better sewing machine next year, and with that maybe I can start making things like that. Maybe. But here it is. It's super simple. The size is to fit the papers for the winter cabin. I was going to make 2, so I had one for the other project. However, energy and time ran out, so this is the only one I have. But look, it ended up being super cute. I also going to need to either buy a lot of pink pastel fabric, or and I'm going to need to buy more zippers, because all my zippers that I have left is pink, purple, blues. And I think mostly because of this fabric, I used up all of my neutral zippers for those little pouches. But yeah, that was all for today. And that this is might be the last video of the year. I am planning to make videos on the go if I can. I am going to vlog every day, but I'm not sure I will be able to do videos every day. So we'll see. Or I will make traveling videos every day, but I'm not sure that I will be able to also add a cross stitch video, if I even have the content for a cross stitch video. That's the thing. But if I go to some stores and I purchase some things, I might take you with me and show you around a little bit. and then that would be in the middle of November, and then in the beginning of January I will have my 2023 plans video. So those are the plans for the rest of the year. If I don't see you before that, I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays, or any other celebrations that you celebrate this period of time. Or if you don't celebrate at all, Happy Winter. I don't know, happy summer if you're in the southern hemisphere. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you hopefully in 2 weeks time. But yeah, until then, I hope you have an awesome day. Bye!